4 massive engines failed to ignite, leaving the world's largest rocket stuck in the Texas dirt. SpaceX is facing a critical moment. We are seeing more rapid hardware testing and flight attempts than any previous era of human spaceflight. SpaceX's Starship program is now the central component of NASA's planned lunar architecture for upcoming Artemis missions, serving as the primary landing system for future crewed lunar descents. Whenever a booster sits on the Starbase pad, aerospace engineers worldwide watch the telemetry data closely for any changes. Landing on Mars requires success, but one crash could trigger FAA investigations and ground every rocket in orbit. South Texas drivers are stressed because larger, more complex vehicles leave almost no room for mistakes on these narrow roads. SpaceX is introducing system upgrades for its Starship V3 rocket, including plans for a new gas pipeline. Everyone is waiting to see if SpaceX keeps its current launch schedule or if hardware failures eventually slow down this new period of spaceflight. On July 16, 2006, the countdown at Starbase, Texas, stopped abruptly during the final seconds of the launch sequence. SpaceX planned the Starship Flight 13 launch for 6:45 p.m. at 2:45 GMT at their main testing site. This scheduled window marks a critical milestone for the heavy-lift vehicle's ongoing development. The launch was scrubbed at the very end of the countdown after some engines failed to ignite. This failure triggered an automatic launch abort for the Flight 13 mission, but during the critical ignition sequence, a sudden technical failure forced an immediate last-second abort of the mission. The victory ended quickly when onboard telemetry showed a massive error during the mission. World Health Organization wins. According to aerospace analysts, the United States military wins the most. By successfully deploying 21 Tranche 1 satellites despite the Starship chaos, the Pentagon secured critical communications infrastructure without delay. World Health Organization loses? Space industry observers say NASA loses momentum. The setback to the V3 testing schedule creates a ripple effect of uncertainty for the upcoming lunar docking demonstrations. What's next? SpaceX is targeting July 20 for the next Flight 13 attempt, with Elon Musk noting 2 engines will be replaced. The launch was aborted after telemetry showed 4 engines failed to ignite as anticipated. Shi said SpaceX aborted the Flight 13 launch at the last second after some engines failed to ignite and is now targeting July 20. The launch was aborted because some Raptor engines failed to ignite. This mismatch triggers an automatic shutdown, stopping a massive launch pad explosion from happening. Engineers use these controlled aborts to carefully inspect critical hardware components before a catastrophic crash destroys the entire vehicle. Without these automated safety triggers, one faulty valve would destroy the entire Starship prototype. This failure gives us the raw data we need to fix the next propulsion system iteration. SpaceX is scheduled to launch a Falcon 9 rocket from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base. Starship's Flight 13 was aborted after engines failed to ignite, while Falcon 9 continues regular Starlink deployments. SpaceX is planning an 8-mile natural gas pipeline in Texas to support its Starship launches. This progress continues as NASA has selected Starship as a lunar lander for future Artemis missions. This satellite launch shows the company is still hitting its scheduled operational targets. SpaceX is separating Starship's experimental flight tests from the regular deployment of their existing orbital satellites. By acquiring these 21 satellites, the military proved the company can launch missions without relying entirely on Starship. The ignition failed because the Raptor engine's turbopumps didn't spin up in sync with the propellant injection timing. It was a timing error. If the software detects a millisecond of lag in valve actuation, the system aborts immediately to stop a pad fire from starting. These failed tests provide essential data for the next Starship development stages, helping engineers refine future flight profiles. Stopping the countdown saves the upper stage and booster from exploding, so SpaceX engineers can inspect the hardware for damage later. These scheduled shutdowns act as a diagnostic tool, letting engineers inspect the physical condition of Raptor nozzles and manifold seals. Engineers will use data from this failure to redesign the plumbing architecture for the next scheduled flight. Texas experimental setbacks aside, California's recent success shows how the company's industrial health is actually holding up right now. And while managing regular Falcon 9 missions from Vandenberg, SpaceX must also address engine ignition failures during Starship Flight 13. This shows the company strategically separated its regular, reliable orbital launches from its much riskier experimental flight programs involving new prototypes. An abort and a successful deployment show this company is running two different eras of spaceflight side by side right now. One team relies on the proven, extensive flight history of the Falcon 9, while the other manages the inherent risks of testing new, unproven heavy-lift prototypes. Is SpaceX's fail-fast strategy the only path to Mars? Or are these frequent engine failures getting too risky for long-term mission success? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Subscribe to catch our upcoming deep dive breakdown of the upcoming Starship V3 hardware upgrades, which we're releasing next week.